this is really it. Hi, if you don't know me, I'm Sunny Scarpa, and I am the very fortunate person who gets to be the library director for the Wallingford Public Library. And I have the honor of welcoming you to our One Book, One Wallingford 2026 culminating event, our author talk with Alison Espach. Woo! So excited. The goal of One Book, One Wallingford is to bring our community together to read and discuss the themes in one book. Sharing our experience of reading a book with one another allows us to connect, sometimes across political, religious, cultural, or socioeconomic divides. We are one Wallingford community, and we are stronger together. Tonight we have gathered over 600 people, 400 in this room, and approximately 200 online. Hi, everybody at home. We're here together for a magical literary experience. But nights like tonight don't just happen. They're the result of a lot of hard work by a lot of different people. So I'd like to thank all of our hardworking and talented staff members who helped make tonight run smoothly. And thank you to all of the wonderful members of our One Book, One Wallingford Planning Committee, whose names are listed on the back of our program this evening. To all of our WPL board members who are here tonight, I want to thank you for your dedicated volunteer service and for helping us keep the possibilities endless. We also have several distinguished guests with us this evening. Deborah Shander, Connecticut's state librarian, is here somewhere, and thank you so much for coming. Mayor Cervoni and his wife and his administrative team are also here, and we're so glad you could join us. Finally, thank you. And I heard the mayor finished the book last night and loved it. And then finally, I wanted to thank both the mayor and the town council. We're able to provide this type of amazing programming due to the financial support from the town, and we're really grateful for their continued support. The Wedding People was published in July 2024 and is a New York Times bestseller with over 1 million copies sold. It's also a Today Show pick with Jenna Today Show Read with Jenna book club pick. That's a mouthful. A New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice and a #1 Indie Next pick. It was named Best Book of the Year by The Guardian, Time, Chicago Tribune, Biblio Oracle, HuffPost, US Magazine, Elle, Real Simple, Glamour's Magazine, but most importantly, it was our OBOW book, and I'm sure the publishers will be adding that to their website first thing tomorrow morning. Cindy Haken, our Reader's Advisory Librarian, helped to facilitate 4 different book club discussions around town this year, with approximately 150 people participating. The conversations about the novel were absolutely terrific. Attendees talked about how funny the novel was, and also how much they related to its themes of grief, life struggles, and the need to reevaluate your life. Sometimes having the strength and courage to start again. I'm sure many of you will have questions when we get to the Q&A portion of tonight's event, so just a reminder to make sure you write them down when you think of them, and staff will collect them later on. We'll ask Alison as many as we have time for. Alison Espach is a Connecticut native. She grew up right down the road in Trumbull. She received her BA from Providence College in Rhode Island and her MFA from Washington University in St. Louis. She's the author of 2 previous novels, The Adults, which was a Barnes & Noble Discover pick and was optioned for a feature film in 2012, and Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance, which was named a Best Book of the Year by the Chicago Tribune and NPR. She is currently a professor of English at Providence College, and we're thrilled to have her back in Connecticut tonight. Please join me in welcoming Alison Espach.
I have my phone up here. I swear I'm not texting. I just need to keep myself on track with time. Is there a way to do that? Can you all hear me okay? Okay. It's very bright. I actually can't see you guys. It's very strange. You are all, unfortunately, getting me at my first event after having a baby a few months ago. Thank you. I've been waiting for that applause. I really could have used that a couple times this week. Which is all to say, I've been just talking exclusively to a baby for 5 months, and now I'm talking to a town. It's a very jarring transition. So please forgive anything I say here. It was also, I was thinking of it on the drive here, and it's actually not too different talking to a baby and doing something like this, because you're just monologuing. Like, you're just narrating your life, which is what I'm about to do. So hopefully you guys give me more feedback. The baby just kind of stares and starting to get some smiles. So, thank you to Cindy. I was hoping you would play a song. This is reminding me of my middle school play theater days, and standing up here and someone's at the piano and you're practicing, so maybe next time. But thank you, Cindy and Sunny, for and all the volunteers who I haven't met but are here somewhere, putting on such an amazing event like this. I'm really honored to have had the wedding people chosen. It's really an exciting email to get, like an entire town is going to read your book, which is actually very scary. I don't know. I've had a lot of frightening experiences, in terms of promotion of this book, going on TV. But for some reason, I was like, a town? Towns have very strong opinions on things. So, I'm ready for them. But as Sunny said, I'm a Connecticut native. I haven't lived here since high school, but I do come back quite often to see my family. But when you leave Connecticut, I don't know how, you're all living here, so you probably haven't moved out of Connecticut yet. But when you move out of Connecticut and you tell people you're from Connecticut or whatever, you get a lot of interesting responses, and I feel like I want to write a book about what people say when you tell them you're from Connecticut. It's all over the place. But my favorite response was this guy who was like, "No way. You guys have so many ghosts there?" And I thought of that driving through Wallingford, because I was like, I feel like this is a town that might have a few ghost stories. I'd love to hear that at some point. So, like I said, here I am talking to, hundreds of people about my writing. It's very jarring, not just because I had a baby, but because, writing is such a solitary act for me. I grew up writing. I was one of those kids who was always writing a novel. The novels were 3 pages long. I started when I was probably 6 or 7. And I started because my mother took me to a library, the Trumbull Library, in fact. And I don't remember what the book was exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was called something like How to Make Your Own Book. I don't know who wrote it. Very vague memory, really reaching back into the abyss there for that one. But what I remember about it is that we went home, and the instructions were basically to take loose leaf paper, punch holes in it if there weren't holes in it already, write a novel, write a book, and then take yarn and weave it through the holes and tie a bow, and ta-da, you have a book. And I thought this was so mind-blowing. I had no idea you could make a book. At some point as kids you learn that things just didn't fall from the sky, already formed, right? You learn, oh, you can do that, or someone put this together, right? And so that just really kind of set me on fire as a kid. I can make books. So I just started making book after book after book, with my little yarn, tying the bow, and presenting them to my parents at the end of the day, because I could write a book in a day back then. It was very productive. And they were always so sad, these novels. Almost everyone died, and all of them. And my parents would sit there and listen to me, read my book aloud because it was that short, right? So I remember one of them. It was something like On Top of the Mountain, or I don't know. It was mountain themed, and I think it was my take on Little Women. So it was like 5 sisters, and their dad was at war. I don't know which war, just some vague war. And they were waiting for him to come home, but instead the police officer came to say that he had died at war. And then also, as he was leaving, the real estate, the realtor came and said, "You're evicted." And so they had to. I'm actually surprised I knew these things as a kid, what a realtor was. But I then made them climb a mountain because they had to go live on top of the mountain. And then they died one by one. And I just remember, I have a visual at the very last page. It's just, no, all the way down, exclamation point, the end. And my poor parents were so supportive. I think they were very worried. But that was really like my earliest sense of drama, I guess, just that someone had to die. And that became something I just continued doing in my fiction. I just kept killing everybody. And I got to graduate school, and I started this short story collection, or what I imagined would one day be a collection, called In-Depth Market Research Interviews with Dead People. And it was based on my experience as a market research transcriber. Worst job, not the worst job, there are worse jobs, but pretty soul-crushing little experience I had there for a while, where I would transcribe market research interviews. So, Honda or Walmart would interview their customers for hours, asking them all kinds of questions. And I would sit there and write down every single word and listen to it over and over and over again. And I wanted to write about this experience, but for some reason I wanted all the customers to be dead. And I remember my graduate school workshop was like, interesting idea, but like, why do they have to be dead? Like, can't you just have them be alive? It's like very weird that they're dead. Why are they conducting market research interviews with the dead? And to me, that was like the whole point of it, right? So I was crushed. I was like, but it's funny, which is always a sign that something's not funny. You have to shout out, it is funny, I swear. So I was pretty crushed, and I put it away for a long, long time. And I think I just developed sort of a self-consciousness about that, right? Or that my fiction was too sad or too dark, or I was always going to a place where people were like, no, don't do that. Don't kill them, like, let them live. Or, why is this so sad? And that came to a crescendo, I think, during my second book when I was writing that. It took about 10 years, Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance. When I say that, people are always like, wow, that's like really impressive, but I wasn't writing literally for 10 years. I, had 2 years of just madness, just like thinking and not sure if I'm a writer anymore because I can't finish this book, then writing a book and deciding I hate it and starting over, So it was 10 years of probably my hardest time as a writer. I was telling the story of, well, not telling the story, I was telling a story inspired by losing my brother as a teenager. He was killed in an automobile accident in Trumbull when he was in high school. And I wanted to tell the story of a young girl who was kind of talking to her sister beyond the grave, right? Like leaving notes after she was gone and all the crazy things that happened after she died. I just wanted to get this story so right. Like, I became such a perfectionist about it because it was so personal to me. I didn't want to waste it. I just had this awful feeling like if I mess this up, I've wasted this this really like important part of my life, right? I'm telling the story wrong. And when I published it, I was genuinely surprised that people kept telling me it was really sad, which I shouldn't be surprised by. But when you go through something, right, it becomes very normal to you, right? So my experiences of losing a sibling, right, it's my experience of life, right? And I thought, in my head, I was like, oh, I thought the book was quite, like, beautiful, like it was like a love note, right? Like an evidence of my love and my affection. And so I really struggled in that period. And when I published that book, I thought, never am I ever writing another sad book ever again. I'm going to write a fun book. It's going to take place at a hotel. The people are going to be on vacation. Maybe there will be like an affair or like a murder, which I guess is fun in my head, but it felt fun. Sometimes murders could be fun on TV, right? A cozy murder, right? Sorry. Let's rewind. And so, I had this character, Phoebe, who, wasn't really a character yet. She was just an idea of a woman walking into a hotel, and then she was saying, like, I'm never going back to work again, and I just want to spend all my money on this luxury hotel, but I didn't know why exactly. And I just kept rewriting that opening section, trying to figure out why she was there. And I really, was like hoping she was there to have an affair, because that would be like fun and sexy. But those scenes just didn't work. And eventually I wrote the scene that ended up becoming part of the book, when the bride is asking her, why are you here? Why are you here? And I finally just wrote, I'm here to kill myself. And I was like, why are you doing this? This is exactly what you would do. Take it to the darkest possible place. This is supposed to be a fun book. We're on vacation. Don't ruin it. But I ruined it. And I knew that this was the story, because to me, that despair felt like the exact opposite of what you're asked to bring to a wedding. And I was like, this is it, but I can't write this book. Like, no, I said no more. So I put it away for years, didn't think about it, didn't touch it, tried writing a bunch of other books. It didn't really work for me. And then one day I went back and looked at my old draft, old documents, and I read that opening scene, and I thought, there is something there. Like, I kind of wanted to know what was going to happen, which almost never happens when I reread my fiction, because I, always forget to put a plot in it. Like, oh yeah, this has to be interesting. It can't just be a character's thoughts. And I was a little bit less afraid of it when I came back to it. And I could see something that I couldn't see when I first wrote it, which is that I was actually being the bride. I was the one who was saying, no, don't write this book, don't be sad, don't talk about the dark stuff, only fun times at this hotel are allowed, right? I was really policing myself as a writer and kind of forgetting what I really love about literature, which is that it has that dark, light element, that sad, funny combination that, to me, feels very much like what life feels like, right? You can't excise the dark parts of life out, and there's a place for those dark moments in fiction too. And so once I realized I was being the bride, that was like, oh my goodness, yes, that's the tension of the entire novel, right? It's Phoebe and Lila, right? Phoebe saying, like, I'm sad, and Lila saying, no, you're not. Sorry, can't, excuse me, can't be sad. That, they're two characters, but to me, it really represented a kind of internal battle that I, and probably a lot of you, deal with on a daily basis, right? I feel this way. Oh my God, I'm not allowed to feel that way for whatever reason. Stop feeling that way, start feeling this other way, right? So that tension to me was what the book became about. And once I saw that within myself and kind of gave myself permission to be dark and to go to a place that I was genuinely interested in exploring, the rest of the novel just, I wouldn't say it just came like that. I mean, it was like years later. But I could see what the book was supposed to do, or what I wanted it to do. And so that was, the first part of getting myself to writing this book. But then I stopped again, because I was like, okay, this is set at a luxury hotel. I've never stayed in one. I have no idea what goes on in these places. I started to feel very fraudulent. Like, anytime you're a writer writing a space you've never been in, especially like such a wealthy space where like I just can't imagine what it's like. I don't know, I was like, the curtains are so expensive and the floor is shiny and there's luxury everywhere. And I just kind of stopped and was like, I actually can't afford to write this book. Like, I don't know what it's like, and I'm not gonna spend, $1,000 a night to go stay in a hotel to write this book. And so I put it away again. And then, as Sunny mentioned, I teach at Providence College, and every year they put out a call for research grants. And I always ignore them because I feel like they have nothing to do with me. They're for like scientists studying ants, or, political science professors who are, studying democracy in other countries. But I was like, why couldn't I use, I do research, right? It's just very unorthodox research. And so I was like, what is the one book I never finished because I didn't have the money to finish it? And I thought of The Wedding People. And I was like, can I write a proposal to stay at a luxury hotel and not get fired? And so I did. I made it so professional, because I was genuinely going to do this, and I needed to do it to finish the book. My chair was like, are you sure? And they gave it to me. And so I got to stay for 4 nights, like on a Wednesday in February, in Newport, at 2 different places. And I was so excited. I was so nervous. I felt like they were gonna know I was on scholarship. And I think they did, or were confused, because the fellowship was only paying for the nightly rate. And so I remember the very first night, I brought up to the room and I'm like, is the water free? I didn't want to spend any money that I didn't want to, open a bag of popcorn and find out it's $58. And the very first night, someone came up to the room, knocked on the door. It was evening time. And he was like, I'm here to turn down the room. And I, staying at only Hiltons my entire life, my father was a real Hilton loyalist. He really liked the pillows for some reason. They don't say this at the Hilton. I've never heard this phrase before. And so I was like, excuse me? He's like, I'm here to turn down the room. And I was like, I don't know what that means. And he was like, okay. He's like, well, I'm just here to get you ready for bed. It's like, oh my God. you guys do that here? Like this is amazing. Like get into bed, like waiting for my head pets. But he just closed the curtains and like dimmed the lights and pulled the sheet back or whatever. And that became like the first spark of inspiration for me, where I was like, oh, that's so nice. Like, I know it's his job and he doesn't care about me, but like it just was like just this really nice thing to just have like someone help you like usher in the evening time. And I kept thinking for Phoebe, what a moment like this would feel like, and how such a small little sort of act of kindness, or not kindness, but you know what I mean, would shift her ever so slightly, right? And that if there were just enough of these little moments at the hotel, that things that she wasn't used to when living alone by herself during the pandemic, right? That ultimately this could accumulate into sort of a mind shift. And honestly, for me, I was like, no wonder rich people are happy, But actually, famously, they're not happy, but they should be, because those hotels were very nice. And staying there just totally unlocked the rest of the book for me, because I realized I didn't need to be someone who like regularly stayed at luxury hotels. I just needed to see it through Phoebe's eyes, which was really my eyes, right? Taking in everything that surprised me, or everything that I thought was absurd, or everything that I thought was really lovely about the space, and how a certain space can make you feel. And so that's kind of what helped push me into finishing the book. And there's a lot more that I can say about the book, but I'll save that for some of your questions. But I'll finish by saying that, for me, writing this book was a totally different experience, and I really am thankful for that grant for creating a different writing experience for me, right? For me, as a writer, it was always something that took me out of the world, right? Like kind of kept me in my room or on my computer when other people are doing other things, right? It's you're always sort of on the outside, right? Writing about it all. And this was the first book where I started to really use it as a way to get out into the world, right? To go to these hotels, or to go around Newport, or to talk to different people. I even took surfing lessons, which I do and don't recommend. It's very fun, very painful, but just another one of those experiences that sort of opened my eyes to like how we can completely shift our habits, our patterns, right? Part of the reason I struggled in that 10-year gap between books was because I just felt like writing was keeping me lonely, keeping me alone, keeping me away, right? And figuring out a way to use writing as a way to bring me out into the world was just a really, I don't know, I wouldn't say lucky, just a really wonderful part of writing this book. And so I feel like in some ways I had my own little kind of journey, my own emotional or psychological journey as I went from sort of being in my bedroom writing this book to being on live TV, being like, oh my God, this is a very public experience now. I'm not just alone in my room anymore, right? And so I don't know what effect the book has on readers. I've heard, from messages here and there, why people sort of connected with Phoebe, and that has always meant a great deal to me when someone sort of connects with the protagonist and Phoebe in particular. But what I really hoped for the book to do, not just for myself, but for anyone who read it, is to sort of close the book and actually feel that same feeling that I felt while writing it, which is like, I really don't know what I'm going to be like tomorrow, and I really don't know what's going to happen in a week. Like, I think I do because I obsessively try to predict it, but I'm always wrong, and Phoebe's wrong, and that's the whole point of the book. So I hope that you finished the book and felt just a little bit of that feeling, and I hope it was a good feeling, because that was my intent. I have no idea how long I've been talking. This could have been 5 minutes or an hour. So.
Hi everyone. Cindy Hicken, if you don't know me. You were amazing in filling out the question cards. I was worried I was going to just stare at her in awe for that hour. But you gave me so many. There were a lot of the same questions, so I'm going to try to ask as many of them as I can. If you thought of other questions while Alison was talking, somebody will, if you hold them up, somebody will notice and collect the questions, and I'll try to ask as many as I can. Thank you so much for them. Hi, Alison.
Hi.
So the first question is from Caitlin, and I think this touches on a lot of what you were talking about. Caitlin is a mental health clinician and a suicide loss survivor, and she said she found the story refreshing in its vulnerability and how raw it was, and she was wondering what inspired you to write about such a controversial and misunderstood topic.
I mean, many things. Like I said, I actually didn't know I was going to be writing about it. But I think for me, until I started writing the book and realized where I was headed, and my initial impulse to sort of shut down the project, I think, for me was one of those instances where we, as writers or as people, right, we avoid what we fear the most, right? So as a writer, I was like, I don't want to go there. That's too much, right? And I think, depression or grief, or, I guess that pretty much covers it, right? Depression and grief, right? They're such intense things that we experience. And for me, growing up, as I mentioned, losing my brother, grief and depression, it was at the center of our family for quite some time. Sort of my formative experience as a teenager was, life is sadness, right? My parents are sad, everyone's sad, life will never be fixed, was the feeling that I had. Like, we can't fix this. And that's a very hard feeling to process as a teenager because you're so young, and watching my parents fall into depression, and as a kid always worrying, about their mental health, right? So for me, it's just always been there. It's hard, I was a very dark teenager, and when I grew out of my adolescence, I just was so tired of it, right? Like I was tired of other people's depression, I was tired of other people's grief, I was tired of my own, and I think that feeling of being like sick of your own sadness, right? That to me is such a sad place, because, even as a writer, like I always try to just at least find my sadness interesting. Like, maybe this sucks, but at least it could be interesting, or like I could do something with it. But there have been times in my life where you don't feel that way, and that's a kind of a meaningless place. And I suppose I sort of use writing as a way to get myself out of that and to make meaning out of things that I find incredibly hard to face. And so, those are very personal reasons for why I went there. As a writer, I never think like, oh, I want to start a broader conversation. Like, that's not a very helpful way to think as a writer. It puts a lot of pressure on yourself. But I'm really glad that it did, or that I hope that it did, and allowed people to sort of open up about some things that might be difficult to share. So.
This is a lighter one from Emma. Okay. Did you intend for Gary to be sexy?
Tone shift, yeah. Yeah,
Mix it up a little.
yeah. I mean, I think he has to be. Right? He's gotta be.
With or without the beard.
With or, the beard is sort of a Rorschach test. It's like some people are like, I hate that, and some people love it, So I don't know. Make of the beard what you will, but yeah, I think he was supposed to be alluring in that kind of subtle. His goodness becomes his attractive quality, I suppose. Yeah. No one's ever asked me that before. Yeah.
He read sexy to me.
Okay, good. That'll be the blurb for.
Hopefully my husband's not still on
Good thing we're not live streaming. Yeah.
Lindsay said, something that set the wedding people apart from most women's fiction romance novels is the dark humor, especially how it is used to make tough conversations easier. Can you talk about how you developed that humor?
I have no idea. I mean, I think it honestly is just a compulsion. So you should ask my therapist. I don't know. I think it's clearly coming from like a sad house, like one of those things where just trying to find the funny spots, trying to find the laughter where you can. And sometimes, in times of heightened grief, things are just funnier. They just strike you in such a way and provide amazing relief. And I've always loved that about life, and I've always loved that about sort of sadness, that there can be this surprising burst of humor if you notice it, right? I was at a funeral last summer and was in the funeral home, and I noticed that the water that they gave us had the funeral home. It was like, I think the word death was on it, but it was branded with the funeral home name, and I was like, that is such creepy water. And I thought it was so funny, and no one else really did, but it's just, that is, I guess, that's just how I move through life. It's maybe, you could call it a coping mechanism, you could just call it my personality. I really don't know what the difference is, but when I read books, that's what I'm always looking for. That's what hooks me. I think that's why it took me so long to discover plot, because I was like, I don't care about plot. If it's funny or if it's that dark humor, I will read or watch anything. It could be totally plotless. And honestly, writing them down, I don't, you notice things. I'm sure you all go through the day and notice little absurdities. If you just start jotting them down, a friend once told me, he's like, if someone ever called it a log instead of a diary, he's like, I would have kept a log. He's like, I really wish I called it a log and had just a collection of my observations about life, right? Once you start writing them down, you remember them, right? Or you don't remember all of them, but you actually become better at noticing them and fine-tuning it. So honestly, I think, it's just a combination of keeping a log and just trying to find my way through dark moments.
Okay. The incident with the convertible came up
Yes.
in several book clubs this summer.
You guys are really making me talk about all the awkward things.
I thought hard about how to say that. And a member of the Library Fiction Book Club, Jill, brought this up at our meeting last week and wrote it on a question card as well, but I had already promised her to ask you. Jill's theory is because this story was relayed by Jim, and was that maybe it didn't happen, and that Jim's motive was to try to disrupt or throw Lila off because he knew her pretty well, or to disrupt the wedding by making the incident up.
Ah.
And we were wondering, Jill was wondering about your reaction to that theory.
I have never thought of that. So clearly that can't be true, but that is interesting. But I think if Jim did that, I probably wouldn't like him anymore, It's like a little too mastermindy. So in my head, it happened. Yeah. But, I support alternate theories.
This is a question from Margie on Zoom. Margie, if you can hear me, hi, she's one of my best friends. I believe The Wedding People is written in the third person present, except when Phoebe is describing the past. How did you decide to use this narrative voice and point of view? What tenses and point of view did you use in your earlier books?
I wanted some distance from Phoebe, which is why I chose the third person, but I wanted it to be a very close third person so that we do get the experience of being in her mind and being very close to her thoughts. In my past books, I don't know, what did I do? The Adults was first person. And then, excuse me, the second book, Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance, was first person as well, but it was directed at the sister, right? So it was using a direct address, and which was, to me, different, right? It's slightly more of a performance when you're directing something at another character as opposed to just being the first person. And so yeah, I don't know. I don't know if too much conscious thought goes into the choosing of the point of view when I first start it. It sort of just comes naturally. It's sort of how I start writing the character. I do think about it later in the editing stage, like, is this the right point of view? Why would we be in third? Why would we be in first? But that's really more of like my editorial brain. That's kind of like, what have we created, and is it the right thing? And so I think with the third person, you just, you get some space, right? Like I think of the first person as being stuck in an elevator with someone and you can't get out, right? And if you don't like that person, then you're really not gonna like the experience of reading the book. But with a third person, you don't have to like the person, right? You're just kind of looking at them and you can decide how close or far you want to be. So hopefully that answers the question.
Two different people, Elizabeth and Laura, both wanted to know what has been the most fun you've had at the wedding.
I don't know. Do people have fun at weddings? I've had good times, but I don't know. This is a great question. I've worked at weddings, which is a very different experience than going to a wedding. And I have to say, I really enjoy being a stranger at weddings, which is obviously another inspiration for this book. I used to man the photo booth, the thing that used to be in the mall, which is now in at our weddings. I used to stand next to it, and I used to tell people what it was, because this was a while ago when people weren't used to seeing the photo booths at weddings. So they're like, why is this here? And I would say, you can go in, and you can take a photo, and put on a silly hat, But I would dress in a cocktail dress, because they told us to just dress for the event, right? Which I now realize is like they didn't have uniforms. So everyone always thought I was a wedding guest, and a very sad, lonely wedding guest who never left the photo booth. And it was just an interesting experience because a lot of guests, like whoever was not having a good time would find me and tell me everything. Their whole life story, why they hate everyone at the wedding, or why their dad's a jerk, or whatever. And honestly, I wouldn't say it was like fun in the sense that I think the question asker meant. But as a writer, it was incredibly fun. Like, it was probably one of my most interesting jobs. And I got to watch a wedding over and over and over again. And it was amazing to me that I always cried at the speeches. Unless they were very bad. But most of the time I always cried, and I was like, a wedding works. Like, even if you don't know the people, it's still like, it's like a performance, and it got me every single time. And so I thought a lot about that when writing the book too, just how how ceremony can just work almost as a formula and not as like a personal experience that you're having at the wedding.
Vanessa asked about the conversations that Phoebe and Matt had with Harry the cat. She said they were incredibly accurate in terms of how she and her husband speak to
Yes.
the cat. She was wondering how you came up with that.
It's just how I relate to cats. Yeah. I mean, my cat is a psychologist, so her name is Dr. Fuzz, and she is a psychologist because the very first day I got her, she was a kitten, and I put her on my couch, and she was sitting there like this, and it just felt like she was saying, "Tell me all your problems," and so I did, and I just never stopped. So I always think it's just very fun to speak through animals. Now I speak through my baby. Right. We do the same thing, just on a human. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad other people do this too.
Vita, who put a heart ED it, 2 exclamation marks, so she loved it. She asked, do you find you were inspired to write this for women in their 40s? I found I really connected to the story and character when I reread it this year.
Yes, definitely. To me, it's like a very middle-aged book written by a middle-aged person for middle-aged people, like just dealing with that experience, which is very confusing to me because I'm going to a high school on Thursday to an AP English class, and they've all read the book. Like, I don't know. I'm very curious what they will say about this midlife crisis of a 40-year-old woman. I don't think I could have cared when I was that age about a 40-year-old woman. It's just, you just think it's like has nothing to do with you. So we'll see. We'll find out. But yeah, that was definitely my intended audience. And it really took, that period of my life, I'm talking like it's over, it was very surprising to me. It was like oh, you have no idea what life is really like. Now you're seeing what it means to be a human being, right? And I think we go through those phases at various points in our life. But for me, 40 was one of them.
Christina wants to know where the inspiration came for the name Juice.
I don't know. I have a very hard time naming characters. I just feel like you have to name so many of them. And then you have to avoid names of people in your life. You have to avoid names that you want to name your future children. You have to then find the name that feels right out of all the names that are available. And so I think I just wanted her to have a non-name, and thinking about weird nicknames that I've heard, and that one just struck me as like a strange nickname for a teenager. Yeah.
On Zoom, Judy asked, did you consider alternative scenarios to get Lila out of the wedding, besides rejecting the new car?
Oh. Not really. Because I didn't know, as I mentioned, I'm not a huge plotter. I knew the structure of the book. Like, I knew the book was going to end when Phoebe left the hotel. But I didn't know if Lila was going to get married or not, and I didn't know if Phoebe was going to have an affair or murder someone or fall in love, or I had no idea. And it was really and I remember thinking, like, I don't think Lila's going to marry this man. But I don't know how to cancel a wedding. Like, I almost felt it the way you would if you were the bride. Like, I'm stuck in this wedding. It's too big. It's too elaborate. And when I was writing that scene where the car arrives, and I decided it was the wrong car, and she was going to, have another meltdown. I was just like, oh, that's going to allow me to do it, right? So it was actually like I couldn't find a way to make it happen. It seemed not plausible that she would go through with this wedding. People go through with their weddings and then, regret them later or get divorced later. But once the car appeared, I was like, yes, she's out.
This question came up several times in the book discussions. Kate is asking about Tom, his ex-husband, presumably ex-husband. What happened to him?
I don't know.
He had attempted suicide before she left him.
Yeah. I don't know, you guys. These are very hard questions. I only imagine what I put on the page. That's not true. There's so much you have to imagine when writing a novel that I do give myself permission to not imagine what happens to some of the minor characters. So I don't know what happens to Tom. It's probably hard. Yeah. I'm sorry, that's a very disappointing answer. Yeah, I don't know.
So there was also a lot of discussion about whether this novel constituted a beach read. The general consensus was no, but I'm leading into a question that was asked on Zoom about the cover art and how involved you were with it, because the cover art is very obviously beach inspired.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know what people mean when they say beach read. I mean, I know what people mean when they say beach read, but I really feel like it's code for, like, I have some free time. I want to read something I enjoy, and something that perhaps maybe they feel guilty enjoying, like they can only do it on vacation, not in their real life or something. So I don't know, but I think that term gets used sometimes. I mean, it's certainly a term that helps you sell a lot of books. There's like a wide audience for beach reads. But I think it also can be a term that's used to sort of dismiss something that, like, this is frivolous or silly, or it doesn't have like real literary merit. So it's kind of a tricky phrase for me. And I kind of let other people decide if it's a beach read or not. I mean, if you want to read it I've seen people read it on the beach. So it is a beach read. And at the same time, I don't know what you want to read on the beach. I've seen my dad read like books about World War II on the beach, so it can be a dark place, the beach. But the cover art is actually, I'm not very involved in that. I get presented with options, and I choose the one that I like the most. Actually, I don't get presented with options. I get presented with one cover. This is very strategic on the publisher's part. They don't want to give the novelist too many options. They decide on one, they present it, and then you can give feedback. And I give very gentle feedback. But for this cover, the original cover was an aerial shot of Newport. It was like very realistic, almost like a Google map or something. And it just felt like, no, that's just not working for me. So I rejected it. I was very proud of myself. It's very hard for me to do. And then they just sent me this one. And I was like, that's totally different. And it was beautiful. And I loved the colors. And, I think it does have that sort of light, dark quality that I would hope someone would be prepared for when reading this book. Yeah.
A lot of people wanted to know if you had a favorite character.
Yeah, I really don't ever have favorite characters. I mean, I think my favorite characters must be the protagonists because I spend so much time with them. But that's a very boring answer. The main character. I just love the outsider's perspective in books, like the girl on the train, or like just someone seeing something from afar and getting involved. So that's really what made Phoebe so interesting to me. But I will also say maybe Marla. Marla makes me laugh. She's just a tough character. Yeah.
Can you say anything about the movie?
The movie is in development, and there are drafts of a screenplay. And I really can't say much more than that, not out of secrecy, just out of slowness. Hollywood is like it's the long game. It takes years and years and years. So that's kind of where we're at, is just developing the script and trying to get it right.
One of the book clubs cast it.
Oh,
Yeah, so.
well, that's helpful.
Yeah.
It'll save us a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 8 o'clock, so I'm going to ask one last question that came in on Zoom, which I really like. Brianna asks, why is the dress green?
I really will give it to you guys. I've never heard any of these questions before. I was like, 5 months postpartum. Like, I've answered a lot of these questions before. I think I'll be okay. I have no idea. I think because I always want to find the perfect green dress, and it just thwarts me every time. Like, I can never find it. Some people, Sunny is wearing one this evening that is making me jealous. So I saw someone else, yes, right there, wearing a lovely green dress. I don't know, I just think it's a beautiful color, and I wish it could be mine. But it doesn't exist, at least I don't have that dress, yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. I know this was as magical as I promised. Possible Futures is still here and will be selling all of Alison's books. If you're staying for the book signing, please make one line in front of the green table, and it will go this way, past the black table, and up the aisle. Thank you for coming, everyone.